Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me and thank you for your continued support. So today I'm going to show you a couple of articles in this video, and they kind of go together, I think, in some ways. So we'll get to it and have a look at them, and you'll be able to see. One of them is kind of dealing with the approach that people have who aren't, the general public who don't claim benefits. Their understanding of people who are on benefits. And the second one is about universal credit in particular. So let's get to the articles and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so this first one is about the stigma that faces people who are on claiming benefits. Stigma faced by benefit claimants is baseless. It's like Donald Trump saying immigrants eat pets, which of course is what he famously said about migrants. But Kate Anderson has said a research fellow at the University of York writes about the stigma faced by universal credit claimants and why Labour's government must look at Social Security Scotland as an example of making a positive difference. Now, basically, what this article is saying is that the UK government and the media have stigmatised claimants as scroungers lacking a work ethic to obtain public support for a raft of cuts implemented from 2010 onwards that reduced already low levels of social security and plunged people into poverty. But Labour can learn a lot from the Scottish Government, which has forged a different approach to stigma since obtaining new social security powers in 2016. While the UK austerity reforms are based upon and justified by stigmatising ideology and rhetoric, Scotland makes deliberate attempts to reduce the stigma. The stigma is woven through the universal credit, while Scotland's child payment illuminates the markedly divergent approach taken by the Scottish Government. This goes on to say that the root of the universal credit is from the Centre of Social Justice, which was founded by Ian Duncan Smith in 2004, who came up with the idea of universal credit. They perceived it at the time as 5 causes of poverty, which was family breakdown, educational failure, worklessness and economic dependence, addictions and indebtedness. And that is why universal credit was created. These 5 pathways to poverty identified by the CSJ and referred to in universal credit policy documents implied that poverty is a result of individual or family failings in behaviour. They were presented as a root causes of poverty, and there was no consideration that the pathways could derive from rather than cause the poverty. And it goes on to say the implementation of universal credit was subsequently justified using stigmatising rhetoric, using increasingly well-worn tropes about worklessness and welfare dependency. The coalition government portrayed those in receipt of benefits as lacking personal responsibility and a work ethic. It says, for example, the policy paper introduced in universal credit said, we made the commitment to overhaul the benefit system to promote work and personal responsibility. Now, you can hear echoes of Labour's stance on this as well, aren't you? The current Labour government, a very similar approach to this. It said universal credit will reintroduce the culture of work to households where it may have been absent for generations. Again, very similar wording. These depictions continue despite research demonstrating that households with 2 generations in a family where no one has worked is very rare. Given that universal credit is based upon and justified by stigma, it comes as no surprise that people in receipt of benefits feel stigmatised. It says this person's research conducted between 2018 and 2024 with mums who claim universal credit demonstrated that this benefit routinely exacerbates the stigma that single mothers in particular already face. She said it's awful because there's still massive stigma attached to people as single parents, even though it is much more prevalent now, and there's even bigger stigma attached to being a single parent who doesn't work for whatever reason. And it goes on to say that since obtaining devolved powers for social security, the Scottish Government has taken the opposite approach. It attempts to reduce rather than create stigma. One of the government's main objectives for the Scottish security system is treating people with dignity and respect and reducing stigma and maximising benefit take-up. In direct contrast to the government in Westminster's strategy of depicting benefits claimants as deviant from the main population, a key principle of Social Security Scotland is the recognition that at any of us, at any time in our lives, may need this support, and that is absolutely true. You know, people who have worked their entire lives could suddenly find themselves dependent on the DWP, just like anybody else. It can happen to anyone. The Scottish Government implementation of the child support payment, of Scottish child payment, a flat rate payment of £26.70 paid weekly for each child under 16 belonging to households in receipt of UK benefits. Now it goes on to say that they're basically trying to make the stigma of benefits much less, and saying to people, look, anyone can need it, and therefore we have to be more aware of people who need it, and not so stigmatizing. And this is what I'm saying. Obviously there are going to be people out there who are saying, well, Scotland can do this because the Westminster give them a lot of money, but it's not so much about the money they give them, it's about their angle. The way they look at the benefit system in Scotland is very different to how they look at it down in Westminster. And I think it would certainly be worth Westminster taking a look at this and saying, why don't we give this a try? Why don't we make this approach to to people with benefits? Let's just see what's going on. Let's just try and do that, because the mainstream media and the government in Westminster have always tried to stigmatise people on benefits. They've always done it, and it's just one of those things which is just constant. And this is why I make videos like this, because it's try and get people to share these videos so they can see that it isn't what a lot of people say it is, and what a lot of the media say it is. Okay, so let's go on to the next article. Okay, so this says that 1 in 11 adults in Hull both work and claim universal credit, and the latest figures. Universal credit was introduced as a catch-all benefit, replacing various benefits, which I'm saying there. Government figures show that as October 2024, more than 7.1 million people were in receipt of universal credit. Of those claimants, 2.7 million, or 37%, were also in paid employment, but still had to rely on universal credit to try and make ends meet. This means that nationally, 6%, or 1 in 16 people, need the extra support of universal credit despite being employed. The whole figure is above the national average, but it's obviously still quite high around the country. Research carried out by Trussell and the Joseph Rowntree Foundation claimed that the standard rate of universal credit falls short of the weekly amount needed to pay for food, utility bills, clothing, travel, phone and internet use, and other basic costs. They argued that an increase is needed in the rate of universal credit so that people can pay for basic essentials. They suggested for a single person £120 a week, and for couples £200 a week. At the moment it's £72 for a single person, £113 for a couple. The JRF senior policy advisor said many people receiving universal credit are working, but employment doesn't protect them from going without essentials like food, heating, vital household bills. 2/3 of working age adults in poverty are in a working household. And this is absolutely true. And this is another thing that I'm talking about, stigmatizing. People hear they're claiming universal credit and they're automatically like, oh, they're scroungers, they're not doing anything. This shows you that universal credit is claimed by people who are working as well, and they still can't make ends meet. They have to work and get universal credit just to survive. And this is why I think that it's completely wrong. Universal credit is supposed to be there to support people back into work, but it doesn't. It just makes people reliant on it, because they can't get jobs that are paid well enough, and so they have to rely still on the universal credit. And this is why I'm saying that the stigmatizing of people on benefits is completely unjustified when you look at things like this and you see these people are trying to work and still can't make ends meet. So why are they then trying to get people who have serious medical conditions? They can't work, and they're still trying to get them to work, and there's no way they're going to be able to get a job or anything like that. So anyway, this is what I wanted to talk about today. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section about this, because I think it's really important. And as I said, please do try to share this video as much as you can. And also, if you're interested in this type of content and you've got this far, please do consider subscribing, because I do talk about all these types of things, as well as general benefit news and stuff like that. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.